Good afternoon. Well, no, not good afternoon. I don't know what I'm talking about. Good evening. This is Real Talk with Yolanda, and we are going to talk about a topic that I shared with you briefly on the last podcast. I did talk a lot. Well, I did talk some about my experience being subjected to child abuse. Well, this is that recording, and I'm going to talk about my experience being subjected and the child abuse. I would say it started when I was about seven. Okay, when I was 7 years old, my well, let's just start to say that I have two sisters and one younger brother. I'm the middle child, of course, and we lived in uh, Brooklyn, New York. And when I was a child, I always thought that we were actually rich. Honestly, even though we lived in the projects, I actually thought we were rich, and I thought that, and because my mother used to make all of our clothes, our winter coats. She would make our, outfits, and especially during the holidays for like Easter, we didn't walk around with name brand clothes. And back then, the name brand jeans were Calvin Klein, Jordache, Um, those I remember, and I believe Liz Claiborne, and then I believe like the Pumas and Adidas and all that. But anyway, we lived in the Van Dyke projects, um, and life was good. Being a child, living in the projects, living in the ghetto, it was no big deal because we didn't even know about a ghetto. We just knew that, we was having a good life. Well, fast forward, somehow, um, my my siblings and I ended up in the system. Okay, I'm not going to divulge how we ended up there just yet because I have not had that conversation with my parents yet, and I'd rather have that conversation with them and get their permission to divulge the reason why we ended up in the system. Um, but anyway, we ended up in the system, and to fast forward, because my siblings, two of us had the same last name, the other two had different names, but they both had the same names, but their names were not the same as mine and my older sister. So because we did not have the same last names, we were not allowed to be placed in the same foster home. So my older sister and I, we were placed in one foster home, and my younger siblings were placed in another foster home, until my mother's best friend, who was no longer living today, she passed away. But my mother's best friend went and got my younger siblings out the foster home to live with her, and that was a great thing. Now that's what you call a friend. That's what you call a friend. However, myself and my older sister, we stayed in the foster home. This foster home was with the older white lady. She was overweight, um, and it was with her son. Her son, I would say, was probably in his mid to late 20s. And my sister and I, we shared the same room. Um, And I remember a time when her son tried to come into our room to violate us. And my sister and I, we jumped on him, and beat him up. At that time, we were what, 8 and 7. But we stayed in that foster home, if I remember correctly. Oh gosh, it was a while. Um, and I remember because my biological father had passed away just before, I would say about a year or so before or within that same year that we were placed in a foster home. But he passed away because he had a brain aneurysm. And then it seemed like life basically just went down. Um, but getting back to that foster home, yes, my sister and I, we jumped him, we beat him up real good. And then for some reason, I'm not gonna say for some reason because I know all my life, I have been one that just spoke what I felt. If I felt a certain way, I expressed it. Whereas my sister, she didn't. She pretty much held a lot in, and that made the foster mother really like her. So I, but because, I was very voiceful, um, I was sent many times to bed without any meal. The foster mother never whooped us, spanked us, anything of that nature. But her punishment was she would send me to bed without any food, or send or would sit there. That's why I mentioned her weight. Sit there and eat snacks and things that my paternal grandmother would send to the foster home. Now, mind you, by this time, my paternal family had already found out that my sister and I, we were in a foster home. So until they were able to, go through the legal process to come and retrieve us from the foster home, in the meantime, they would send us clothes, they would send us treats, a little bit of knick-knack, snack, and stuff like that. Well, like I said, when I was opinionated, the foster mother would eat my snack in front of me. Her son, and my sister. Um, so I dealt with that. It was as if her and her son were basically trying to put me and my sister at odds at each other. So one day, when my paternal grandmother came to visit, um, she just witnessed me storming off, talking back at the foster mother, not knowing what just transpired. The only thing she saw and heard was me being disrespectful and me talking back to an adult. So my grandmother at that time said, she yelled at me and said, Young lady, what are you doing? You don't disrespect this woman. She took you and your sister in, and you ought to give her some respect." And I looked at my grandmother, and I looked at the foster lady, and I just turned around and I just went to the room. She said, "Don't you turn away from me." That was the beginning of my hell on earth. I say that because when the time came when my sister and I moved in with my paternal family, it was in a brownstone building, 3 floors, um, basement, main floor, and the top floor. I would say there were about 11 of us, and that included my sister and I who moved in. That was 11 of us that lived in that one home. It was my big mama that we used to call Big Mama. She was my grandmother's mother, and it was my grandparents, and it was my uncle who lived, well, not lived, but who roomed in the next room next to my big mother on the main level. And he struggled with drug addiction, drug and alcohol addiction. And then there was my other uncle who was away um, on active duty in the Marines. And when he returned home, he took up residency in the basement. So it was him. So that's so far. That's five people. Okay. Upstairs on the third level excuse me, was my aunt. She was a twin of another aunt who was out the home already. She was already married. Then next to her bedroom was my other aunt who passed away about 2, 3 years ago from spinal cancer. Um, she was in the next room. She also was a twin to another aunt who also was married and living out the home. Then it was my other aunt who um, she didn't have she didn't have a twin, but she lived there briefly because she was soon to get married. So she was there. Then it was my other aunt who she was single also. She never married. And then it was my sister and I. That was 11 people. That does not count our dog that we had and our cat that we had. Our cat looked a lot like, oh my goodness, that gold looking cat, Morris the cat. That's exactly how our cat looked. And then Pierre was a French black poodle. He was very mean. Uh, they treated Pierre, the dog, better than they treated me. Honest, I'm not exaggerating. In the winter, Pierre had his own boots. He has his own trench coat with the fur on the inside up against his fur with the collar up. Yes, Pierre was taken care of very nicely. He would take, they would give him baths and put on dog deodorant and dog, all kind of dog this, dog that, yeah. And they even gave him a bath in the regular tub. We have one of those old fashioned vanity tubs that cost so much nowadays. It was one of those high rising but deep tubs with the four legs. Yeah, we had those. So Pierre would receive a bath at least once every 2 weeks. So that was like 2 months, twice a month. Anyway, fast forward. My sister and I shared the same room until my sister turned 16. When she turned 16 and I was only 15, they allowed her to sleep in or take my deceased father's room. His room was like in the back of the upstairs. So she had her own room while I had to share my room with my aunts, basically, with the aunt that had not married yet, but she was on the verge of getting married. And then when she eventually got married and moved on, I had that room to myself, but it really wasn't my own room because my other aunts always kept coming through there, even when I was getting dressed, undressed. I had no privacy at 15. You would think a little bit of privacy at 15. I had none. And so anyway, it got to a point where my sister started feeding on the attention that my aunts was giving her. The one that passed away about 2, 3 years ago with the spinal cancer, she was the one that attached to my sister. My sister attached to her because she could never win an argument with my sister because my sister was one of those who read and would spend most of her time studying the Webster Dictionary or the encyclopedia. She was one of those. She was a nerd back then. So whenever that particular aunt would like just strike up an argument for no reason, my sister would, pretty much shut her down and make her feel this small because of the large words my sister would use. So she started really liking my sister. I'm like, oh, okay, you a sexy one, huh? Take my sister out, leave me in the house, um, things of that nature. She would, on her way home from work down in Manhattan, she would, if she stopped and got herself something, she would bring my sister something. Oh, I stopped at this store and I thought, you would like this, but didn't bring me anything. Okay. That became the norm for me. I started shutting down. Mind you, my father died. Now we in a foster home. Now we in a home where I don't feel as though I belong, or if I'm even being noticed. Um, then my paternal grandmother, even though she had a microwave, she never wanted to use it. She believed that food warms up better in the stove because that's how she was brought up. So therefore, when the microwave came into existence, evolved, she still did not want us to use it. She did not want to use it herself. Yet it sat right there in the kitchen on the counter. Nope, you could not use it. Eventually, she did as years went by. Um, as for her wash machine and dryer, she never allowed us to use her wash machine and dryer, which was located in the basement where my other uncle resided. She made us wash our clothes the way she had to wash hers when she was coming up, with a basin and a scrub board. Some of y'all may know what a scrub board is, and some may not. I'm certain that the younger generation may not, but it's one of those. I tell you what, just Google it, or go on Amazon and type in scrub board. That's what we had to use, and ours was one of those wooden one with the frame, and then the metal was in the center. So when you scrub, you actually got a good clean. We were not allowed to use any of her detergents. She made us use the brown Lysol. I don't even know if they even make Lysol anymore. It's that huge big bar of Lysol. It was brown. And yeah, so she she didn't allow us to pretty much do anything other than wash our own clothes. We had to hang our clothes on the clothesline. Even though she had a wash machine and a dryer, she did not want us to use her wash machine and dryer. The only ones that were allowed to use the washing machine and dryer were the adults in the house. But as for my sister and I, we were not allowed because we were children, and they saw children as, I don't know, little people that break things. I don't know. I understand the madness that was going on in the house. But anyway, so we had to hang our clothes on the clothesline. That include our panties and little training bras that we had and all that. It was just so embarrassing. I just felt so violated because I wasn't used to that. Because when we were with our mother, we were young, so my mother really washed our clothes. We was at that time what 5, 6, 7 until we came into the foster home. But my mother washed our clothes. Put it in the dryer. We actually had a dryer. We didn't wash our clothes at 7 and 8. My mother did that. So coming to my paternal family, it was like you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't do that. Um, the only good thing I can say that came out of that home was when we were out riding our bikes. We were only allowed to ride our bikes from one end of the block to the other end of the block. We couldn't go around the block or go onto the next block. We had to actually stay on our block where they can see us. As we got older, we were then allowed to go around the block. But they would time how long it would take us to go around the block. If we stopped and spoke to some friends who we went to school with on that block, we would get in trouble. Well, what took you so long? Well, I stopped to speak to so and so. Well, were you supposed to stop and speak to so and so? No. Go on in the house. Go on in the house. You don't deserve to be out here. It was just embarrassing, all because we stopped and spoke to a friend. Also, when we did play on the block, so we weren't allowed to go on another block or in another neighborhood to play or anything. They kept their eyes on us. That's why on my previous podcast, I mentioned back in the day, parents watched out for their children. Nowadays, parents go on and let them ride their bikes, and before you know it, the neighbor snatch up your child and got your child hostage and kidnapped and molesting them. And the whole nation is looking for your child, and all the while your child is in a neighbor's house being tortured, being raped, being molested. I'm not gonna talk about the kids tonight. I'm just gonna talk about my child abuse. Um, but yes, so there were times that we had to be in the house, walking through that door before that street light pole came on. Um, and there were times when we would forget that the street light pole was on, and a lot of our friends already knew how my paternal family were, so they would try to help us out. All right, the street light is on. You better go. And we would be running down. Because we was on a block, we wasn't too far, so but we would be running. Everyone in the neighborhood knew why we was running. They would not, stop us, ask us no question, because they knew we had to be in that house. That's how much they respected us and respected my paternal family, and they didn't want us to get in trouble. So we would get to the house on time, but yeah, we had to be in the house when that light pole. I think I can't even remember if the light pole. Yeah, once that light pole came on, yeah, we had to be in the house. Not before, but just when it came on is when we had to be in the house. And they knew when that light pole light came on, so they would be standing. I kid you not exaggerating. They would stand at the door because we had my uh, paternal family had like a door, like a glass door, and you open that door, and then it was like another entrance just before you open up the main door. So that entrance right there was where you would take off your shoes or um, um, close your umbrella, stick it in the umbrella basket, and then you go ahead and um, walk on into the vestibule area. Yeah, vestibule area. And then we had to run, wash our hands real quick, and sit down for dinner. Yes, we all sat at the table and we ate dinner. Not like many parents do today with their children. And while we sat at the table, we were not allowed, and I had a big problem with that. I would slunch down in at the dining room table, and my aunt, who was very, how shall I say, very educated. She spoke very well, just articulated very well. She was a doctor, and she would say, Yogi, that was my name. Yogi, you need to sit up straight. So I would sit up straight, and it was hard to be a child. You have to sit up straight at the table. So what my aunt would do would come and put some encyclopedias and a dictionary on my head, and I could not let those fall while I was eating. So I had to eat straight up with my back straight, and I could not have my elbows on the table. Elbows were not allowed on the table, and I had to hold my fork a certain way, and I had to bring it to my mouth, and I could not let my fork touch my teeth where you heard a cane and I could not bend my head down to look at my food. I had to learn how to bring my food to my mouth, just like this, without moving my head. If my books fell off my head, I would get hit. I would get hit. Um, this went on quite a while until I learned how to sit straight. So even now, as an adult, when I'm out in public or at a doctor's office or somewhere like that, I will sit straight, you know, because according to my paternal family, that's the proper way of sitting, like a young lady. Um, Also, we weren't allowed to speak incorrectly, use proper language, proper grammar. There were certain words. Oh my goodness. There were certain words. If you said it in public, you would get slapped, smacked. Phew. Don't you embarrass me? Yeah, it was like that. We weren't allowed to use certain words like ain't. Um, Ain't that right? Or just use that word ain't. To them, that was broken grammar. So we weren't allowed to use broken grammar. We weren't allowed to use the word nothing. Well, how was school today? Did you do anything? No, we didn't do nothing. No, no. What did you say? Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't do anything. So yeah, everything had to be proper. The grammar had to be proper. I mean, all of that had to be proper. And to embarrass them in public, mm-mm, that you didn't do. Some kind of way, if you didn't get smacked or slapped beside your head in public, trust me, you received a, I'm not gonna say spanking, because spanking, one, two, with your hand, spanking. We received beatings. When I say beatings, that's exactly what I mean. And of course I received more than my sister, um, because of her and her vocabulary. They were intimidated because they could not believe that someone who was 16 could make them look bad. So we got, let's see, we received beatings with shoe, belt buckles, extension cords, ironing cords, anything with a name cord. So you could imagine the many webs that was on our bodies. Yeah. Um, and um, every time I got that beating, I wanted to kill myself. I said, if death is better than this, I'd rather die, you know. Um, then Friday nights were BYOB nights. I say BYOB nights because my aunts and uncles, they had friends, they would bring them over. They would all go down in the basement. Mind you, my grandmother was a Christian woman, but she allowed a lot of stuff to go on in the basement. Things that go on now was going on in my grandmother's basement. And there were times my sister and I, we would try to open the basement door real slowly and try to peek down there and see, what those adults were doing. We knew they were doing something nasty, So as kids, we wanted to see, but we would always get up them stairs, So okay, we ran up the stairs, boom, 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 and we running the stairs. Um, and then I remember this one particular time that my uncle, the one that had an alcohol and drug addiction, he became very violent and he tried to swing at me and my sister. Get up the stairs. And my sister's, she ducked down and she ran up the stairs when I got caught. And when I got caught, he grabbed me and pinned me up against the wall and kept pushing me back and forth, at least, hurting my back. Push me. Didn't you tell this stay upstairs. Didn't you was told to stay upstairs? What's wrong with you? I'll beat you in your head. Now get up them stairs, you know. And I was like, okay, okay, okay. And then he just threw me down on the stairs and just ran up the stairs as fast as I could. Um, the part about me and my sister, as things got bad in the house, my sister and that particular aunt got closer and closer. So whatever my sister did, um, it was okay. If my sister wore one, if she came in my room and wore something of mine, like my favorite sweater, and it wasn't just the regular zip up or button up sweater. These were sweaters, they were like cashmere sweaters that we used to wear to school. And how my grandmother was taking care of us was from my deceased father's, we were receiving benefits from, his death, and as well the state was, taking care of us too. So my grandmother would receive a certain amount of money while she was taking care of us. So that's how we would get, able to wear nice clothes. Um, she would give us a certain amount of allowance twice a month, and we would go down in Manhattan and we would buy clothes. Back then the alligator and the snakeskin shoes, the suede shoes, that was the thing back then. So we wanted to be like the rest of the kids, and so we wore some very expensive clothes, cashmere sweaters that you only see people on Parks Avenue wearing, Fifth Avenue. But that was our allowance, and that's how we spent it. Now, when I look back at that, it bothers me. And I say that because now I'm in a position where I'm trying to build generational wealth for my grandchildren, because now I know about investments and generational wealth and all that. Had I known that when I was a teenager, spending it on name brand jeans like Jordache, Calvin Klein, Liz Claiborne, and all of that, and snakeskin, alligator skin, suede shoes. Um, had I known how or was taught how to invest, then my children, when I had them, would not have had to work for anyone. And right now, that's what I'm working on, trying to build that generational wealth for my grandchildren. I don't want them to have to work for anyone. Now, if they want to work for someone, that is their choice. But I don't want none of my grandchildren to have to work for anyone. One of my grandchildren who just turned 5 Sunday, always said he wants to be a construction worker because he loved the construction vehicles. He has so many of them. He even played the construction games on the iPad and so forth and so forth. So he likes the construction vehicle. So he said, now I want to be a construction worker. I said, no, baby, you don't want to be a construction worker. There's nothing wrong with it for some people who, if that's what they want to do, hey, go for it. I said, but you want to reach for being a construction owner. You want to be an engineer, someone who designs buildings. That's what you want to be. You don't want to be the one out there digging the holes and doing, no, 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 no. You want to be able to be the one delegating the designs of buildings. That's what you want to be. He said, yes, man, that's what I want. I said, okay. I said, always keep in mind, you don't want to work for anyone. You want to be your own boss. You want to own your business. You don't want to work for anyone. So I've placed that in his head, and hopefully that's where he'll go with that. Because both of his parents have very lucrative type of careers. But still, they work for someone, and I don't want him working for anyone or any of my grandchildren for that fact. But nonetheless, going back to my childhood, so my So yeah, so we wore a lot of nice clothes. But anyway, my grandmother had this thing that she only wanted us. Now she didn't include her children, her adult children. She only applied it to just my sister and I because we were the only children in the house. So she instructed that we were not allowed to iron any clothes at all on a Sunday or during the week. Okay, that was her rule. So, and we also had to wash all of our clothes, all of our dirty clothes on a Saturday. And we had to, once they dried from being on the clothesline, we had to bring it in. We had to fold them, put them up, and we had to iron and set out all of our clothes for the entire week, Monday through Friday for school. We had to lay them out in our bedroom, or have them hanging up some kind of way so that she can come around and see, okay, you have all your clothes lined up and ready to go for school. And there should be no reason for you to have to iron anything. So there were times I wanted to wear something else that I may have changed. You know, like for an example, if I ironed up all my clothes for that week for school, and that outfit that I had to wear for Monday was something that was short sleeves, or if it was going to, or if I thought it was going to be sunny because the weather said it was going to be sunny, but not knowing that it changed and it's going to rain and it's going to be cold. Well, I wanted to change my outfit and wear something else, and I didn't want to wear my other outfits that I already set out for Tuesday through Friday. So I would try to rush and not be in anybody's way because everyone in that house had a set time when they were supposed to be in the bathroom, be out the bathroom, be in the kitchen, eating their breakfast, cleaning their dishes, and being out the door. So everybody had a certain time. So I would try to sneak and iron something. I wasn't on anybody's time. It wasn't anybody's set time to be there at that time. So I would try to hurry up and iron something. Lo and behold, who comes downstairs? Yes, that particular aunt, the one that passed away with the spinal cancer. And she would start yelling early in the morning. What are you doing? And she would take my clothes that I had on the ironing board and she would just throw it on the floor. Go on and get it. You right here. You know you're not supposed to be ironing. And I'm like, well, you weren't down here, and I was almost finished. She said, that's beside the point. You're not supposed to be ironing, And I'm like, man, whatever. And she was like, what you say? And she would yank me back and say, you don't be talking to me like that and be holding on my arm. I go, get off of me. There was several times she and I we would be fighting, just constantly fighting until my uncle, who's a addict, or if he didn't hear it, my uncle that was downstairs in the basement, he would run upstairs. Come on now, y'all need to stop this. Y'all need to stop this. This don't make no sense, you know. And I well, she started it. And she'll go, well, you don't supposed to be ironing early in the morning on no school day. I said, well, why are you ironing? And she go, don't make me smack you. I'm like, then you get smacked. So I was one of those kids. I got tired. Of, being mistreated, starting from the foster home. I got tired. So I started really rebelling, just wanting to fight back. I didn't care who I was fighting back. But I would have fights with this particular aunt every morning. No matter what time I tried to sneak downstairs, she was watching me. She wanted to pick a fight. Simple as that. Mind you, my sister had done the same thing. And she would come down, see my sister ironing, and she'd go, all right, you don't iron when you finish. What? Yeah, she would tell my sister, yeah, don't leave the iron on, while I go and catch breakfast. By the time I catch breakfast, you should be through. I couldn't understand it. I'm like, what's the difference in us? I mean, we're both children. you know, I couldn't understand why there was so much favoritism. But then, but then, I'm repeating myself because it's hard to even say this. But yes, it came out of my grandfather, my paternal grandfather. See, he was the neighborhood drunk. Everybody in the neighborhood knew my grandfather. He was a native Indian. And he said that he used to tell a story that he started drinking when he was 6 years old. That was their culture with the native Indians. They would pass around, I don't know what they call that thing. It looked like what we used to use in the military to drink out of, the old ones, not the new ones that we call canteens, but they was like round, and they would pass that around, or they have this horn. I forgot what they call that stuff. Um, but he said that he started drinking at age 6. So he became an alcoholic, and he was known as the neighborhood drunk. So anytime someone saw him stretched out on the street, down the way somewhere, they would come and ring our doorbell or my grandmother's doorbell and say, "Ma'am, I seen Charlie out there. He's on Avenue so and so. He's stretched out." And my uncles would go down there and bring him home. Or sometimes, yes, it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing to the point that it was like, everybody know now. Everybody in the neighborhood know we got an alcoholic as a grandfather and an alcoholic as an uncle who's also strung out on drugs every day. It was embarrassing. To this day, I don't buy alcohol. I don't buy any. There is none in my home. Like, I would say New Year's or something like that, Christmas. My daughter may buy some eggnog or something like that. Now, if you go to my daughter's home, there may be alcohol there, but I don't keep alcohol in my home. And the reason why is that I tried when my children were young. When I left my children's father because of domestic violence, and we ended up going to the shelter and all of that stuff, and we ended up, being able to get back up on our feet. I was renting a nice home, and after work, I would go and buy one wine cooler. To me, the wine cooler tastes like it was Kool-Aid. And after work, I would stop and go and get that wine cooler and then swing around and go pick up my kids because I got off from work before my kids got out of school a lot of times. And my son was in kindergarten at that time, and my daughter, during that time when we had left my ex-husband, and my daughter was like a year and a half old. So, but then my one wine cooler turned into two wine coolers, then three, then four. Then I started when I saw that I was able to switch them up. I would switch them up and buy like a daiquiri. Um, I mean, there was all kind like a pina colada, daiquiri, and then like two other different flavors, like a mango or something like that. Then my four turned into six, to the point where I wasn't drinking them by the day. I was drinking them that same day. Okay, once I had put my kids to sleep, I would think I could drink one. I couldn't. Think I can drink two. Just two. So I ended up realizing, Yolanda, you got a problem. And I did not want to turn out like my paternal side of the family. About 99.5% of them are alcoholics, and those individuals are dead today because of cirrhosis of the liver. Very few of them are alive. So I did not want to turn into an alcoholic. So I stopped buying wine coolers. I stopped buying any type of alcohol to bring home. Then while I was in the reserve, because I was still in the reserves during this time too, I After the reserves, I would hang out with some colleagues, and we would hang out at their house, and I would my beverage choice back then was rum and coke or gin and juice. And again, I was drinking that stuff like there was no alcohol in it. That right there let me know, mm-mm, it's in your genes, girl. It's in your genes because your grandfather was an alcoholic, your uncle's alcoholic, your other uncle's an alcoholic, your auntie's alcoholic. So I knew, hey, two and two put together makes four. It don't make 10. So I knew it's in my genes, and I don't indulge. I don't indulge. Um, so anyway, back to my childhood again. So yeah, so that continued on, and every time I had a fight that morning, my BFF, who is my children's godmother and my grandchildren's godmother, and we still stay in touch after all these years, 48 years, we stayed in touch. But she will always say, girl, again, because she would just look at me because my hair be all messed up sometime, and she'd go, again, or I'll be crying, or my eyes would be red, or. So she always knew what was going on. And she said, that don't make no sense, Yolanda. That just don't make no sense. You got to fight every morning like that. I said, yeah. She don't do it to my sister. She don't do it to her. So after school, I would hang out at my BFF house. Their parents would come home and they'll start cooking and they'll say, Yolanda, you want anything to eat? Sometimes I would eat. Sometimes I say, no, it's getting late. I'm gotta go home. But a lot of times I never wanted to go home. Home was at grandma's house. I never wanted to go back home. It felt so peaceful to just be out of the home. But it was always something. Anything I did, I didn't do it right. I couldn't do it right. But yeah, like I was about to share, when it all came out as to the reason why they were showing favoritism between my sister and I, and that was because, as my grandfather just blurted out one day when he was drunk, he said, "You not gonna be nothing. You ain't gonna be nothing because your mama ain't nothing." And I'm like, huh? You look just like your mama. And I'm like, where's all this coming from? And then as a child, you don't understand or you don't believe that when a person is drunk that they really understand or know what they're saying. So I just accepted that as, he's just drunk, he's just saying stuff until I went off to college later on in life. Yeah, and I learned that alcoholics know exactly what they're saying. The only difference is that alcohol just gives them a lot of courage. That's why they call it liquid courage. That's why when an alcoholic is cussing you out and calling you all kind of names, that's exactly what's been in their heart for a long time. And that liquid courage is giving them that courage to say whatever the heck they want to say that they couldn't say or they wouldn't say or they would have felt bad to say. But given the fact they were drinking alcohol, yeah, it just gave them liquid courage. So that's how I found out that why they were treating me differently than my sister because they never liked my mother. If anything, they blamed my mother for my father's death. How do you blame someone for something can plant in your head? He suffered a lot with migraines until one day, um, and he was taking, meds for it, for his migraines. I mean, he didn't know he was, having a tumor at that time. I don't think. Then again, he really didn't share much of his medical. Then again, no one back in that time shared truthfully what was going on with them medically. Um, yeah, ask my siblings about that because a lot of us are suffering from a lot of things that we didn't know was in the family. from high blood pressure to diabetes, asthma, a list of things that we didn't know existed until we became adults and started suffering from many of the same issues. Breast cancer, um, cancer runs rapidly on both sides of my family. My mother's sister died from breast cancer. My mother's mother, my grandmother, died from breast cancer. My younger sister, who's 5 years younger than me, was diagnosed with breast cancer, had to go through chemo and all of that stuff. And, hair falling out. She ended up having to go ahead and shave off her hair. And I shaved off my head to support her. Thank God I kept my dress. I kept my dress because when her cancer was in remission, and she's doing well and everything, I said, okay, she's looking good. Okay, let me go ahead and have my dress put back in, and so I had to end up paying someone to put them back in for me, attach them back on, and now they're completely locked. So thank God I saved them because it took me 15 years to grow my hair from the time I came home from Iraq in 2005. So, but anyway, so much for the hair. But yes, so yes, my aunt, my sister, my grandmother, and then my aunt, who I fought with so much on my paternal side of the family, she died from spinal cancer. I never even knew there was a such thing as a spinal cancer, cancer in your spine. I've heard of cancer being in your stomach, anywhere else. Never thought cancer could be in your spine. I know cancer can be in your lungs, not in your spine, but yeah, she died from cancer of the spine. Um, so yes, cancer runs a lot in my family. But again, did nobody plant a tumor in my dad's head? Okay, no one planted that. But yeah, they blamed my mother for his death. Had she not put him through this, and when he used to go and visit you guys in the project, she never wanted him to see you guys. I'm like, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. Because there were several times when my sister and I were home and my dad showed up knocking on the door, and my mother allowed him to see us. So I don't know what they're talking about. But then again, I believe one thing, and now my sister believes something else. So my sister, for so many years until this day, she have believed everything that she was programmed to believe from my paternal side of the family. She has disconnected all ties pretty much from my maternal side of the family. But yeah, and she believes everything, that side of the family. And I've done the opposite. I have disconnected um, from the time when I left New York to move to Texas and be with my parents, my mom and my stepfather. I cut ties. I had actually cut ties from that side of the family because for so long they mistreated me. I've never felt like I belonged. So I cut ties from them, and my older sister, cut ties from my mother's side of the family. But going back to my sister, there were several times she would wear my cashmere sweaters and just walks on down the stairs to eat breakfast like there was nothing wrong. And I look up and I'm like, that's my sweater. Why you have on my sweater? And her response would be because I want to. And she knew they was gonna, back her. So a lot of times we would end up fist fighting before we went to school. So if I wasn't fist fighting my aunt, I was fist fighting my sister every morning, every morning. And then to top that off, when I went to school, if you back in the day, if you wore your hair nice, or if you was pretty, or if you dressed nice, or if the leader of the basketball team or the football team liked you, all of a sudden you have a bunch of female enemies. Just because the captain of the basketball team like you or the captain of the football team like you. So you knew to bring a small jar of Vaseline, put it in your book bag, and bring your brass knuckles. Put your brass knuckles on. There was like one whole set of, that's how you would fight. And you would bring a razor blade and you put it through your two fingers, all that stuff, we had to do. Because there was girls that always wanted to fight. I'm laughing because I cannot believe it's stupid. Every day, 3 o'clock. And they would walk by my classroom and they'll do like this. Like reminding me and do all like this. And 3 o'clock. That's right, 3 o'clock. And because I hung with a lot of female friends, none of us started fights with anybody. We didn't start fights with anybody. People always wanted to fight big fights with us because, like I said in a previous podcast, we always on the weekends, like on Saturdays, myself and my BFF and her sister and my sister and a bunch of other girls, we all had sewing abilities. So we all would bring our sewing machine over and go down in the basement of my BFF, and we would be sewing up our outfits to wear on Monday. So a lot of time we would coordinate. We all wear either red and white polka dot or red and white stripes, or we're gonna wear just red and white or whatever. But we always dressed alike. It was at least, oh my God, man, I would say it was at least about 7 or 8 of us, maybe 10. But it was all of us, and we all was like a sisterhood. So we all protected each other. We stuck together. We lived nearby each other. So we all wore our hairstyle the same way. We all wore the same outfits. If, at the end of the day, somebody will call it, all right, Friday, Levi's. So we would wear our Levi jeans, the bootleg type Levi's, well, I call them bootleg because they was like, well, they call them all kinds of names now, but they flare legs, the big legs that they wore back in the 60s and 70s. Well, yeah. So we would wear our Levi's on Fridays, and then they would say, or the person who's calling it out would say, all right, Levi's and a white top, or Levi's and a blue top, you know, something like that. So we always coordinated Monday through Friday. And, so that was our little clique at school. But yeah, people always wanted to fight and we had to fight. So think about it. I had to fight at home with my aunt, fight at home with my sister, go to school, fight at school after school. It was all I was always caught having to fight to defend myself. Always. And then all of a sudden, one day, my sister and I, we were fighting, and she just vanished. I don't know where she went afterwards. But then my grandmother, it was on a Sunday, and my grandmother don't like a lot of noise and arguing on a Sunday. So she come up from the stairs. She was making some grits, and she had a frying pan. You know that old fashioned black skillet? I have some. Well, it wasn't the large one, but the medium sized one. She came up them stairs and she said, "What is your problem? What is your problem? It's Sunday. It's the Lord's Day. And you acting the fool." I said, "I ain't do nothing." She started with me, Nothing I ever said. Nobody ever believed me when I said somebody started a fight with me. So it was like I was living on the island all by myself. But anyway, so because I was talking back, to my grandmother, she felt like I was being disrespectful. She said, "I'll smack you." And I thought she was going to smack me with the frying pan. So I blocked her. And she said, "What?" And she did it again. And she caught me on my side of my face, but I blocked her again. And what she did was that she fell back onto our ottoman. For those of you who don't know what an ottoman is, an ottoman is what they have now. it turns into a bed. It looks like something where you rest your legs on when you're watching TV. Well, that's what we had. So she fell back. She lost her balance and fell back. Oh my goodness. One of my aunts come storming out the room. Yandy, that's what she used to call me. Yandy, push mama. I'm like, I didn't push her. So word got around to the entire family, crosstown in New Jersey and Long Island and Staten Island. It was all over the place that I pushed my grandmother. Okay, so because they said I allegedly pushed my grandmother on the floor, I so-called injured her hip. And because of that, I was isolated by the entire family. When my cousins came over, I stayed up in the room um, because no one was talking to me. When my cousins came over, it was as if they were already given a speech by their parents. Don't be playing with Yolanda. We play with, so but you don't need to play with Yolanda. And I could tell that they had a speech before they came in because the way they were looking at me like little puppy dog eyes, like, you know. And so what I would do, I would just sit up in my room and I would start writing in my diary, you know, um, wishing that I was dead, um, wishing that they all would die, um, wishing that my dad came back, all that good stuff. Um, but yeah, I never felt love by anyone on my paternal side of the family. I never did. Um, and to move forward, I would say to this day, my sister and I, we don't speak. Um, I have forgiven everyone, but I've learned that in order to help me to be able to be healthy mental wise, I have to let that go, let them go as if they never existed. I mean, it happened, it happened. I can move on. It happened. It happened. I can't change the past. I can't change what happened. It happened. I accept that. It happened. A lot of things happened. But to stay mad, stay angry at what happened to me, no. I'm, I just do what I'm doing now. I talk about it because I'm certain there are so many of you out there that have been subjected to child abuse when you were young, or maybe have gone through it just recently and are out of it. But yeah, I was angry for a good while. For years, I was angry. But in order for me to be able to live and move on, and I had to let that go. I had to let it go because it wasn't helping me. So now what I do, I talk about it and share my story with many others. But I did forget a piece, and that was when my sister, just before she graduated from high school. Now, mind you, I would say around 17ish, all of a sudden she found the Lord. That was great. I was happy for her. I had found him too, but every time I had found him, it seemed like it felt like it didn't find him because I always found myself in hot water for some reason. But she was consistent. She was consistent. Every time you saw my sister, even at high school, she would be carrying her Bible. And when her friends would see her, hey, so and so, she would, hey, God bless you. God bless you. So I would laugh, but I was glad that my sister found the Lord because I knew that we wasn't gonna fight anymore. Because I didn't enjoy fighting my sister. I really didn't. I did not enjoy fighting my sister. I just did not want her wearing my clothes if I couldn't wear hers. But I didn't want to fight her, and I didn't want the family to get involved and take her side and start, attacking me, thinking that I was a troublemaker. No, I just didn't want her wearing my clothes. Um, but yeah, when she found the Lord, all of a sudden she started receiving enemies. Oh my goodness, people that come out of nowhere, just wanted to fight my sister. And for what? She's talking about God. Why you want to fight somebody's talking about God? Fight me. Fight me. I'll take you. So that was the thing. They started calling me the crazy one, the crazy sister, because there was several. I would say there was two in particular. I remember that was known. There was two females I remember that was known in the school of being a bad, but yeah, one of them. They can fight a dude and beat that dude up or that guy. I mean, they were ruthless because they had brothers. So they grew up in a house of fighting brothers. So to fight a female, it was like nothing to them. It was like Mike Tyson, having to fight with who? Mike Tyson having to fight with Tyler Perry, or some other, person who doesn't fight. You just don't do that. So, but anyway, yeah. So they wanted to fight my sister, and they was ready. They was following my sister home and all that. Somebody came to me and ran to me and said, "Yogi, so and so is going to jump your sister." I said, "Where they at?" They said they over there on such and such street and all that. I said, "Okay, I'm coming." I started running. I started running. Now, mind you, back then I was only 4 feet 11. My sister was what 5'3", 5'4", something like that. So, and the person that wanted to fight her, well, the first one that wanted to fight her was like a 6 foot, you know, Trinidad female. So she had long legs, and she wanted to fight my sister. I said, "Okay, I'm coming." So um, I got there too late, and my sister and them started fighting. So myself and the rest of the girls that we hung around, we just stood right there, making sure nobody jumped in. And all of a sudden, her sister wanted to jump in. Why did she want to do that? All of a sudden, her sister jumped in. Okay, you jump in, I jump in. So I jumped in, I fought the sister. And then one of her friends jumped in. Then one of my our friends jumped in, and then all of a sudden you had a bunch of females on the corner waiting for the bus, just fighting until the police came and broke it up. But that was the life that we went through, and and then I remember a second one. That second one wanted to fight her. Now that's the one. She was like a daggone Mike Tyson. She was type of female, and I remember her name and everything, but I'm not gonna mention it. But there's certain people's names I'm not gonna mention. But anyway, yeah. So she was gonna fight my sister. Before she even got to my sister, I walked up to her. I said, "Excuse me. I was told you want to fight my sister. What's up? What's that about?" And she said, "Come on, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it." I said, "Well, you gonna hear from me." I said, "Either you fight me or you ain't fighting nobody, because you definitely ain't fighting my sister. My sister don't even bother anybody." I said, "The only thing she talk about is God. So you want to fight somebody because they talking about God? If you ain't a devil." I said, "Come on, we can fight, you know." I said, "Yes, I believe in the Bible. I believe in God and all that stuff. But right now, hey, all of that Christianity and all that's coming on. We're gonna go at it." That's how I was. Um, the way I was during that time when my sister gave her life to the Lord was how I was when I was over in Iraq. That's a scary thing, to not have fear. Yeah. The most dangerous person is a person who does not have fear of dying. And that's where I was when I was fighting that girl. I did not fear her, not even a iota of fear. She may have whooped my butt, dragged me all across the sidewalk, but I didn't have no fear. I just felt, I don't know, I can't explain. I just felt a sense of peace, but at the same time, I was determined to fight this female, regardless if she did whoop my tail. because she wasn't going to fight my sister, not somebody talking about God. You're going to respect my sister and you're going to respect the God she's serving. So I will fight for that. So after that, and when people saw that they couldn't mess with my sister because I was there to fight for her, they left her alone. Now, many of you ask, well, why would you even take up for your sister when they mistreated you in the home and your sister fought you in the home and all this stuff? The answer, that's my sister. And I did not want anyone hurting her. I've always felt that way. Always felt that way. Never want to find my sister, and I never want anyone else to hurt her. Did she feel that way about me? No. Why? I don't know. But I've always protected her. Soon after she gave her life to Christ, I began being her protector. Began protecting her, and she's still that way today. Even though she's been programmed to believe incorrect information, but you know, that's something she has to deal with. You know, hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. Sometimes you have to leave people alone, even if they're our family. Sometimes you just gotta leave them alone and let them process, what it is that they need to process in order for them to be able to come to you and apologize or just be able to move forward. Some people harbor things for years and years and just eat at them. I'm not harboring anything, you know. Now, I recall my sister calling me the day before I was being deployed to Iraq. That was the first time she had called me. And what it was a long time. And that was in 2003. Just to say, I'm just calling because, mom said that, you're going off to Iraq and I really don't want you to go, but I know that you have no choice to go. And I said, yeah, pretty much. I have to go. She said, well, I just want you to know that, just take care of yourself and, I love you. I said, oh, okay, okay. I could not say I love you back. I could not. I didn't feel loved. And I didn't want to say something that I knew I didn't feel at that time. And that's something that too often people use so freely is the word love. I love you. I love you. I love you. No, people oftentimes say it just to be saying it, just to hear themselves say it. But if I don't feel it, I can't tell you I love you. Yes, you're my sister. Yes, you're my blood. But just because you telling me you love me doesn't mean that I feel the same. I don't know. To this day, I still haven't told my sister that I love her. And I'll be 58, on Wednesday coming? And she's already 58. She'll be 59 in June. Um, I don't know, you know, just don't know. But I just wanted to just share this piece of my child abuse, what I went through with those of you who may be going through the same or have gone through the same. Um, it's not a good feeling being a child and not feeling loved or not hearing it, not hearing it. Because I can recall I never heard or felt a hug from um, my paternal grandmother. Now, my maternal grandmother who passed away, yes, yes. I I remember hugs from her. I remember hugs from my granddaddy. But I don't remember hugs from my paternal grandmother or ever heard her say, I love you. Now, mind you, a month or so, I believe, no, I called my paternal grandmother. It was laid on my heart to call her because I hadn't spoken to her in a while. And I believe I called her not this year, last year, but I think it was around think it was around COVID, I believe it was. I called her, and I was shocked. I even still had the telephone number. It's the same number after all these years. They kept the same number. And I called her, and when my aunt answered the phone, she said, no, it was my grandmother who answered the phone. And when she said, who's this? And I said, Yolanda. She said, Yolanda. That's how, like I said, people in my family call me all kind of names, excuse me, all kind of names. I've been called, now the correct way of my name is Yolanda. Yolanda. But for so long, people have called me Yolanda. I'm like, it's okay. Call me what, makes you feel comfortable. And then, of course, I have all kind of nicknames, Yogi, Yoli, all that. So I know who I am. I know what my name is. But yes, my aunt in the background said, the one who ran out and said that I had pushed my grandmother, yeah, her. She ran out. Oh, she finally decides to call. It's about time. Where's she been? Now, no. Well, I'm excited to hear from none of that. None of that. More so is why I hadn't called, what's been so long, what I've been doing, and all that. So while my grandmother was talking to me, she said, "Yeah, you're the only grandchild that have ever that." No, she said, "You're the only grandchild that don't even call me. You haven't called me in years. You don't even realize how sick I've been, and just putting all that guilt trip on me." Yeah, and I sat there respectfully and listen. I listened. And I was saying to myself, and I was talking to God at the same time. I said, God, you laid it on my heart to call this woman. And this is what she tells me. Okay, okay. And then after she got through saying all of that about what, I'm the only grandchild that have not called her and check up on her, and that she's been paralyzed from her waist down, and I didn't even know that, and all that stuff, and how she had another heart surgery. Now, mind you, this grandmother she's been wearing a heart pacer. That's what they called it back then. I don't know. It's a heart pacer or something like that, where she had to go in every so many years and get it recharged or replaced or something. Well, um, apparently she had taken ill during COVID, but she was able to bounce back, but not to the fullest. So it affected her a great, you know, um, a great amount. And so after she said all that, I said, okay, grandmother, well, I was just calling just to see how you was doing because it was laid on my heart to give you a call. And, I just want to see how you doing. She said, well, you should have called, years ago. I said, yes, true. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yes. Okay. And then, um, and then just before she was hanging up, that same aunt in the background, don't let it be another 10 years you calling here. I said, okay, I won't. My grandmother passed away, I believe that next year, the following year. Yeah, she passed away. So she passed away, I would say, because COVID began around 2018 and full force around 2019. I spoke to her around 2021, I believe it was, because I retired from my government job in 2022. So yeah, it was between 2020, 2021, I believe it was. Or yeah, around 2021, 2022 is when I last spoken to her. And then that following year, she passed away. I received I received, I forgot who even told me. I don't know. I don't know if my mother, yeah, I think my mother, I believe my mother reached out and told me that my grandmother had, that she received a call from my sister who said that my grandmother passed away. Then I said, okay, okay. That was all. I just said, okay. And then I was asked, well, do you plan on going to the funeral? I said, no. Mm-mm. Just like when my aunt passed away. My aunt had passed away a year before my grandmother, I believe. And I was asked, do you plan on flying to New York and going to the funeral? Mm-mm. Why? It's just not feeling like I want to go. Not that I'm holding any animosity, it's just not feeling like, how should I explain it? It didn't feel like my family. The person who passed did not feel like a family member that I should pay some respect to go to the funeral. I never felt that way. And even when I received the news that they both passed away, I still didn't feel that. I felt like there was something empty, something empty. Um, I don't know. I don't know. So, but again, people, life is short. Life is short. Don't hold any animosities, no hate. Life is too short. You here one day and gone tomorrow. You know. I know there are some of you who have been subjected to worse child abuse than me, and it's not in my place to say let it go or just move on because you have to make that decision. Can't nobody tell you to move on from being subjected to any form of abuse. That's your call. You'll know when it's time for you to move on. Can't nobody tell you. Can't nobody tell you. Okay? So when you're ready, you'll know. Okay? Don't let nobody push you. Being subjected to any form of abuse is a lot like having to experience a loss, like grieving. Everyone grieve at their own pace, and everyone grieve um, in their own way. Some people hold it in and don't release it until it actually hit them and they're able to process, wow, they're gone. If, when they hear that person's favorite song or when they are eating that person's favorite food, like, dang, so and so not here. So that's when it hits them, and then they may break down, be angry and cry and all that. But there are so many phases of grieving. We all know that. Yeah, you be angry at first, um, but there are so many different levels, so many steps of grieving, and you have to get through all of that. So being subjected to child abuse, not feeling loved, not feeling accepted, and everything that you ever have done or said was never enough. To me, those are losses. It's a loss. I never felt hugged. I mean, I never felt loved. I never was hugged. I never was told I love you. Those are a loss to a child. That was a loss to me. Okay. But I grieved and I've been able to move on. It happened. I accepted that. And I come to um, that point where it wasn't about me. It never was about me, but they made it about me. So as long as I know it wasn't about me and it was never about me, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I didn't kill my aunt who had spinal cancer. I didn't kill my grandmother who died from who knows what. I don't know. Family never shared it. peace with me either. I don't know. Mm-mm. So, with that said, to all my victims of child abuse, all my survivors that are still struggling with moving on from child abuse, you know when it's time for you to move on. Again, don't let anyone pressure you or tell you, well, that happened 5 years ago. That happened 10 years ago. I wouldn't care if it happened 100 years ago. You don't let anyone pressure you to get over any type of abuse because it wasn't them that was affected, it was you. Okay? So you know when's the right time to, you know, call it in and say, you know what, I'm done now. I breathe. You know, I can move on now. Okay? Well, until next time, I'm certain I will find some type of a topic to discuss or share with you. Okay, so you guys out there, you ladies, um, you hang tight. Keep your head up, stay encouraged, stay empowered, stay safe. And you know what I'm going to say. Watch your kids. Okay?